Kratos, the once great general, now known as the Ghost of Sparta, had pledged himself as a champion to the gods of Olympus. In return, he hoped only to rid himself of the nightmares that haunted him for far too long. Kratos knew that for him, this was merely the beginning.
What would you have me do? Take these nightmares from my head!
There is not much time. Olympus needs you.
Who would release such evil?
Death awaits all of us.
Where are your gods now, Kratos? Is this all you would have me do? Calliope!
Father?
Hey, Matt.
Oh, hey, what's up, man?
Hey, so Smash Brothers Brawl comes out next week. Are you guys covering it on the show? Maybe like a tournament, like the Soul Calibur 3 tournament that we did a while back?
No, we already did the whole thing from Japan. I think that covered it. And, tournaments are kind of a lot of work. And, does anybody here even play Smash?
Won't you?
No. I like real fighting games, man.
What the hell?
I mean, I'm sure you can find people around the office that would want to play. I mean, if that's all you're looking for. Next week's already booked up, man. I don't know. Sorry.
That God of War for PSP broke my headphones. These used to be fully functioning.
How did it break your headphones?
I wore them a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant the actual game broke your headphones, and I was gonna say
in
that's
a way,
an epic feat.
Yeah, you can give it credit for that. But no.
News story: God of War breaks Matt Leone's headphones.
No.
God of War breaks headphones. Man bites dog. I did play it over the weekend.
Yeah, you see,
which of course I did. Yes.
Congrats.
It took me a whole 4 hours. Maybe 4.5.
So cruel.
No, it was awesome though. It's a totally fucking packed 4 hours. I'm totally into games that, don't consume my entire weekend these days.
My only thing with the length is that if I had known that length up front, I wouldn't have any problems with it at all. I would have been okay, this is awesome. This is a perfect game for this. I was a little surprised the first time through that it was a little short, but I mean, once I went back and played it 2 more times,
so you played on
cool with it.
Extra difficulties and everything?
Yeah, so when you play it the second time, you can use everything that you unlocked the first time.
Oh, nice.
And then if you want to play it on God mode, you don't get to do that. You have to start over from being gimped again, but it'll take good, I don't know exactly, maybe 10 to 15 hours to get through God mode. But it's definitely a little bit easier than it was in God of War 2. I did a little chart for EGM that was here's a way to get 20 hours out of this game if you want. And you get extra character if you play through God mode, and you get an extra character if you play through, costume, not character.
How are the costumes? Are they cool? Because I didn't have I'm not gonna do it.
I'm not sure if we should spoil the one that when you beat the Challenge of the Hades was kind of confusing to me, but when you beat God Mode, I was really into it. It was a nice little payoff.
I actually am really impressed with the combat.
Oh
and
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not just that it's God of War and it has good combat, because they all have good combat. And there's a lot of things, of course, that are exactly like 1 and 2.
They cheated a little bit with the timeline there.
Yeah,
they
did.
Combos over from 2. But,
yeah. But for the betterment of the game, because the combat's just better in 2. And they added in a few things, but like in the beginning when I was first playing, I was thinking the combat just felt kind of same-ish.
Yeah.
But like once it got later into the game, once I started unlocking stuff, and especially after I got that second weapon, I used it for like the whole rest of the game. Yeah, I loved it so
Which is
much.
weird. It feels like they force you to use it, so then you kind of want to use it more as they force you to use it. So it's like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty effective. And I think a lot of that is just that it's pretty strong.
Yeah.
Like it has 3 levels of upgrade instead of 5. You don't have to worry about like it just being a short range weapon. You're also going to take off a lot of damage.
You get the sprint move that you can lead into
quick
attack.
Enemies back.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was doing crazy combos with it. I was doing the charge move, attacking, knocking people up in the air, doing an air combo, slamming them down, then slamming from the air.
What did you think of the story?
I liked it. Like, I thought that it actually fit in. I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about without spoiling, which, by the way, like this, if I have to go to Hades again in God of War 3, I'm going to be really kind of disappointed.
Why didn't you like it? I don't know. I've heard people say that, but I don't really understand like why it's a criticism.
Well, it's a criticism just from a story point. It's not a criticism from a gameplay point, because like the Hades levels were my favorite levels in this PSP version. From a story point, I was just like, again? Really? I guess it just feels a little uncreative in terms of the rest of the series.
Yeah, I really want to talk about like the end, but I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
Because like, well, okay, so like, it was very sentimental, and just like I was really impressed that they had the balls to do what they did.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I got what they were going for with it, and it did kind of make Kratos even more tragic than he already is, which is kind of a feat considering what they conveyed in the other 2 games. So I figured, okay, it's going to be on PSP. I know it's going to be good, but this is seriously like, it wasn't something that I actually expected them to be able to pull off as well as they did. It's missing a little bit of like the ginormous epicness of the other 2 games, but only a little bit.
Like in God of War 1, they intentionally broke the frame rate to have that one where it's like closing in on you and that room is like filled up and you just have to clear the little area. And you don't really have that because it's much more of a, fighting, I don't know, 3 or 4 enemies at a time, and then they'll keep coming back.
That makes sense now that I think about it, how many areas there were, but how few enemies there were for each area.
It's probably a hardware limitation, but I mean, it definitely works fine. Like, you don't ever like find yourself missing it. So, the roll, the evading.
Oh, right.
What's your take on this? Because in my opinion, it's like the best thing that could have ever happened in the series is having evading work well on PSP like this.
I totally agree. It worked really, really well. I was totally impressed with it. Actually, I was worried with it because, the rolling was on the right thumbstick before.
Yeah.
And that always seemed so automatic to me. Holding both shoulder buttons and then rolling with the left thumbstick, for me, seemed better than trying to control 2 thumbsticks at the same time.
Because you're already going in that direction anyway, so
Yeah.
you know like the exact right angle to hit.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to take your right thumb off of the buttons, so you're always free to attack or roll at any time.
There's fewer buttons on the PSP, but they're utilized so well in this game that I want these controls actually to be in God of War 3.
So yeah, it's kind of like out of necessity they had to come up with this, but it works so well. I'm not sure I would want it to replace the PS3 version. There are things that they could take away from this that definitely add to it.
Especially the magic use. Like when you're holding you hold the right trigger, and then the different face buttons are mapped to the magic.
Right.
That's so much better than like choosing a magic with the D-pad. This was the game that actually proved to me that the analog dub does its duty.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Because I played the whole thing, start to finish, and I came
In
away
one sitting?
in one sitting, and I came away thinking my thumb doesn't hurt. You know, I
My
was
thumb
able.
was hurting a little bit in some of the God mode sessions, but
well.
not too much. I mean, there's no fourth magic, which surprised me. I was like, that's weird. You have 4 face buttons. You've had 4 magics in each of the previous game. Where's the 4th magic? There's no more like Rage of the Gods,
Right.
or Rage of the Titans, which they say they actually did have at one point in the game that they cut. So I mean, there's certain things like that that make the controls, I think, work pretty well, just because they're not overly complicated as they would be if you had too much of that kind of stuff in there. Especially because this game doesn't, or you know, this series never had camera control. That worked perfectly with the PSP. There's nothing else on PSP that is even close to this, like,
No,
at all. Like from that perspective, it's amazing.
When I remember, you know, when they were first launching the PSP, they talked about how this is a PS2, a portable PS2.
That's how they market this game too.
And it shows.
Yeah.
I actually believe it now.
Oh, shit. I don't appreciate that. You know, Ryan, I'm pretty sure that I'm no competition for you. I like to play for fun, and you obviously don't. I think you should go play Richard or something.
So it seems like it's been a while since we shot that interview. And
Almost a year.
has it been that long?
Yeah. What is Line Rider? Where'd it come from?
Well, Line Rider is a project I did for illustration class in school. Basically, I got the idea from a drawing I have in my sketchbook, where there's this little guy on a slope just raising his hands, excited to be going down the slope in a couple of seconds. So I just finished my last Flash project, so I said, oh, this would be a nice thing to do, and started doing it. It took me about a year from when I got the idea to put it all together. I mean, I had long breaks in between, but and then at the end I just showed it to my professor, and he was like, yeah, cool, awesome.
So you got to play it, you got to see it.
Yeah, we get to spend some time with now. There's the PC retail version, so no longer in Flash, and then there's the Wii version and the DS version. So it's definitely changing. It's kind of 2 parts. It's you have the toy, which is like the Flash version, where you can just kind of mess around and create whatever you want. You spend hours, you know, tweaking every line and making drawings and having your guy slide through the drawings and all that. You know, there's new lines. There's a line where you can stop like naturally, so you don't just fall off the edge or like into a pit or whatever you create. There's like a trampoline line you can bounce on. There's lots of tools like that. Because on like Wii and DS, you know, you don't necessarily have the precision that you do with a mouse. And even with a mouse, you know, it's a little wobbly sometimes. You can draw like a straight line, or you can draw a kind of wobbly curved line. But now you have like exact control over the curve of the line. So you can set the exact percentage of how you want it curved, and you can you can pick out points and like push and pull them. So it's a lot more forgiving as far as how the interface works, which is pretty much a necessity for DS and Wii because of the interfaces aren't as precise as you would have anyway. And then the second part is the game, where it's a bunch of challenge modes. You go through like 40 different challenges, and each one of them gives you like a bunch of preset tokens, and you have to basically, use what's in the level, and then use your lines to find your way to the end of the level.
So basically, through the story mode, what you do is you try to like draw your lines like around these different obstacles.
So you have a limited amount of lines you can use to kind of figure out the best way to get from point A to point B, and there's a lot of different things you have to try to capture along the way. Like there's different things in the environment that you have to find. So, and then some are optional and some are mandatory. So you can kind of, create your own path to figure out the best way to capture all these things on the way to the end. And if you do it, then you solve the level and you go on to the next one, and there's a bunch of those. There are cutscenes, which is kind of weird. But we never really see too much of those, but there's like CG cutscenes that tell the story of the Line Rider.
So what is the story of the Line Rider? To save the princess? Or...
I don't know the full story, but I know there are 3 characters, one of which is a girl, and there's 2 dudes, and they're trying to like compete for her love. Yeah. But
So wait, you're like in competition with this other guy for this girl?
Exactly.
Or...
But you can choose to play as any of them. And the cool thing, really, is that there's a third mode, which is kind of a combination of these other 2 modes, where you create your own like challenges, and then you can upload them for other people to try. So there's 40 like in the default game, but then if I create 10 and just upload them, then you can come on and download them and try to like figure out my puzzle for everybody else.
Is that more just the PC mode, or is that on the Wii as well, that you can upload your different courses?
Yeah, you can definitely download maps on the Wii. I'm not sure about DS, but definitely Wii and PC. I'm really into just the tools and like how it's expanded, because like everyone saw like a little bit of like a taste of it, and then they're like, well, it looks a lot different, and the character is obviously different, and the visual style is it exists now. It's not just straight lines, but you can make it as simple as you want. Like if you want, you can just make it a simple like thing that looks exactly like what you've already got out there, and then if you want, you can add clouds and clip art and backgrounds, and you have different layers visually, so you can like a Photoshop thing, so you can set like what's in the background, you can draw something there, then you can put your guy in front of it, and then you can have him riding on a course, and you can trick people because like they'll think that he's about to land on a line, but he actually won't, because it's in a different part of the level.
It's on the background, because like on the PC version, like the beta, I guess this is the beta 2 now, they have like there's only like 3 different lines, but you had like the line that you can create with the background, and then you also had the lines that you can actually make just the course. So
yeah, it's cool. There's new lines. Like there's a line that you can crash into. Like you can draw like a chandelier, and then once you touch it, just like shatters.
Whoa.
There's like a trap door line that you can fall through.
Or just like drop you down to like another course. That's
so
cool.
I think just like that alone is what has me most excited. Like the challenge stuff, that makes sense, and it's like, yes, it's a game now, and especially on the DS, it's gonna be like, okay, cool, I actually have something I can do if I don't want to like spend time being creative, if I just want to kind of sit down and play through something and see if I can solve the puzzle. It's kind of like Portal in that way, and then it's like a new type of puzzle game. But I mean, it's using lines.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what people create now that they have more to work with. I mean, just with what was on the PC before with the beta, I mean, some people made some pretty epic.
I know, it's
courses.
insane. And now you can upload your own clip art and everything, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I can't wait to create some more.
Watch out! Shit, man, they got us pinned down.
I know, I can't get a shot on.
Who does this guy think he is?
Bro, that was so badass. You wish you had skills like that.
a lot of the game must have gotten cut out, because when we originally heard about the game was like, you know, this fresh new EA team, you know, put together to make like innovative new creative software. And even though the concept was kind of simple, it's a shooter, you know, third-person shooter, at least it was about co-op, focusing on co-op, and they were trying to tackle these kind of like modern real-world issues. They had a bunch of grand ambitions with this game, but somehow along the line it just got toned down into what is essentially a pretty simple shooter. The subject matter is very, you know, very serious in a way, but it's put together. The game, the narrative is very slapsticky and kind of much sillier than I thought it was going to be.
And it feels like a really safe story too.
Yeah.
Because they're not saying, you know, that private military is good. They're not saying that private military is bad. And they sort of wrap it in kind of this paint by numbers, you know, militaristic story, conspiracy theory storyline thing.
We hear about these ambushes every day on the news. I think someone's telling them where our troops are.
You and your conspiracy theories. You're a real piece of work, Tice.
At some point in the game, they kind of go like, wow, you know, I wish we weren't in the army, because then we could do, you know, all this other stuff, or we'd have cool weapons. You know, it's like, I wish it wouldn't just like hit you over the head with that kind of stuff.
A year ago, you didn't have 2 nickels to rub together, and now you're blowing 10 grand on sports betting.
Whatever. If I win, I'll be able to pay off my credit cards.
You are out of your mind.
We're pulling so much bank now. How can you worry about cash?
We're making bank because we're at war now. This war ends and you're not going to be able to sustain your lifestyle.
Relax, man. This war ain't ending anytime soon.
I think they had to try to have a little bit more mass appeal with it, but, you know, I agree. I totally agree. Like, I wish it didn't have to do that. I think they set out to have the AI really try to replicate, you know, playing with a human, and I think they actually toned it down as they were developing it, because I just don't think it worked quite as well as they had hoped. You know, what it ended up being is you're actually kind of leading the guy the entire time now. Like, when you're playing with the AI, it doesn't really feel quite co-op, I would say. I don't know, and that's why the game really is a much better co-op experience, I think.
You know, they make both of your guys get to a particular door before you can open it, so you don't end up with somebody at the end of the level and somebody at the beginning like you can in Halo co-op sometimes. So there's some smart stuff there, but most of the time it's just you and a guy next to you walking down an extremely linear pathway, sometimes an open area, but usually like, you know, any linear pathway, like shooting at the same guys together.
I'm glad it opens up like halfway through the game. The stages really do open up, and it's not quite so linear. And
I like the core aggro gameplay quite a bit. I think that was pretty fun.
What it reminds me a lot of is like the Brothers in Arms game, where it's like you send your guys for covering fire, you know, and then that's what it feels like.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah, it feels like a single-player mechanic. It doesn't feel like something that's necessary for co-op. Because when Ryan and I were running around, like we would do it sometimes, like try to get aggro so that I can get this turret guy. But it turned out Ryan could just snipe the turret guys through the little hole. We were both just like running and shooting things, and it didn't really seem to matter much.
Yeah, it's very, very run and gun. It was mostly those kind of boss characters that you fight where you can't injure them at all by shooting them head on. You have to shoot them in the back. And their armor, I don't think they did a very good job with the art for those characters, because it seems really arbitrary. Like a barrage of bullets coming at someone should not hurt them at all. And you just have to go all the way around and shoot them from behind to make them, you know, die, and it only takes a couple shots. It just feels really kind of thrown together. I think.
You have to be able to have levels where you can order your guy to go here, or you can order him to go there, and he starts shooting, gets the aggro, and then you go around. And since you have to be able to order the guy in the single player experience, it means that the levels can't be designed to split you up.
Back to back, Elliot!
Going back to back. I mean, that was originally kind of a gameplay element, so that, you know, in the middle of a level you could be like, hey, let's go back to back, you know, we'll be kind of invulnerable for a little bit or whatever. But the way it's set up in the final version is that you're just kind of like, it just decides like, oh, okay, you know, we're going back to back now. You know, it's like a cutscene.
One major co-op mechanic in the entire game that like is actually new and different. The pick a door off a car, hold a shield, and have your guys stand behind you and fire thing. That's like the one gameplay innovation that I can think of that was like really different, kind of fun. I hadn't seen co-op before.
Also, it had the whole Perfect Dark Zero, like arrow thing, and it's like if you have to rely on. I mean, I didn't have to rely on it that much, but if you don't always know your objectives, where you're supposed to go and stuff, then you have to rely on that. There is a problem.
We were out in this open field area, and the two of us were running around forever, and like, where the fuck are we supposed to go? And like looking for a jump up somewhere or something, and then like, oh right, turn on the GPS. Oh look, there's the arrow. Oh, we're supposed to go to this wall in the back corner that looks
funny,
completely.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Everywhere else in the game, up until that point, there are walls, and you can't do anything to them. So at that point, you get to that wall, and like all of a sudden, you're supposed to assume you can climb over it. I mean, like, yeah, it's stuff like that.
As a shooter, though, it's still solid. It was, it was still fun. I had fun shooting my guns at the other guys, but I can get that from a lot of other games.
Right. They're kind of like artsy, fun ideas just hit the cutting room floor.
Yeah. The whole tampon thing, like that whole scene. I mean, it's good that they cut it because, like, I remember in the reviewable we played 6 months ago or whatever. I mean, that was just lame. I mean, it was cool that they were trying this stuff, but like, it just takes you completely out of the experience. So I'm glad they ditched all that stuff. But I mean,
they could have kept it, but do like the Gears of War reload thing. Make it a little mini game where instead of dragging the guy, behind it and then just waiting for a progress bar to happen, let me hit in this like little range, and maybe I can heal him twice as fast. Or if I fail, then he dies.
Yeah.
I know it. They probably got cut for the right reason, but I wish that there was a way that we could see what this other game might have been like. Whatever their original vision was, because I'm surely.
I guess it depends on the. It's like they cut for the right reason. I guess kind of means that that they had to cut it so that they could sell the game.
Right.
And they had to sell it with this complete single player experience, and the single player experience actually really hacks at the co-op experience. This game does not feel like a co-op game to me. It feels like a single-player game with some co-op elements added to it.
Right.
And I think that's too bad because there was so many interesting things that they could have done with it.
If you could release a game like that was multiplayer only.
Yeah. What are you going to do? Are you going to put an Xbox 360 game on the shelves and say that like this is only a co-op experience? You can only play this with another person?
Yeah,
if you don't
have another person, sorry, no single player.
Right.
I think they could have done like something more more interesting.
But see, what they wanted to do was actually have it so that you couldn't tell the difference. And I mean, if they could have pulled that off, then then great.
The designers of this game probably had really good intentions. I mean, I'm sure there are people there that totally understand private military corporations, and I think there are people there that have really cool new gameplay ideas about what could be done with a co-op shooter. And I feel that like the process and the fact that this is coming out from a major publisher and playtesting and all these things that allow a modern high-budget game to come out are totally fighting against them to make the game that they actually want.
Yeah, the game feels focus grouped.
Yeah.
I will say though, like in EA's defense, I mean the fact that they gave it more time was great because the version that I played 6 months ago was not that good. Like checkpoints. They probably doubled the amount of checkpoints in the game. Like originally it was like you start at the beginning of the level, just glitches all left and right. I'm so glad that EA gave it more time because it is a much better game than it was last fall. I still had fun with it, and again, like in kind of the time of the year, it's pretty good because it doesn't have to like go up against Halo and all these other games like it would have had to last year.
I can play this game now, but what I'm really hoping for is Army of 2.
Right. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a franchise for EA. They're going to do other ones, and as long as they have this like core gameplay kind of down. I'm interested to see what they could do with it next. I mean, like,
I'm interested to see what they can do next, as far as gameplay mechanics go. But
well,
I want them to ditch the art and the characters and the cutscenes and the voice acting and the writing.
Do you understand any of the stuff, like dashing shield, jab fix, hyphen smashing? Okay, what is grab turn around no name given? What does that mean? Okay. Something called glide canceling. Dashing shield grab? Dude.
It's all new stuff to me.
I know Neil from Smashboards. He's the tournament director there.
Maybe we should get him out here.